Ladies and gentlemen, we are witnessing a viral moment that has completely shattered the narrative surrounding one of the most hyped players in women's basketball. Paige Bueckers, the former UConn star who has been relentlessly promoted as an elite force and potentially the best player in women's basketball, just got absolutely demolished by veteran WNBA champion Chelsea Gray in a one-on-one tournament at Unrivaled, and her reaction has sent shockwaves across social media. Gray did not just win, she dominated Bueckers so thoroughly that Paige barely made a single bucket, and immediately after the loss, Bueckers visibly crashed out, displayed terrible body language, gave a dismissive wave to fans, and stormed out of the building in what can only be described as a complete meltdown. This is not speculation. This happened on camera in front of everyone, and it exposes the massive gap between the manufactured hype surrounding Paige Bueckers and the actual reality of her abilities when she cannot rely on UConn's loaded roster or preferential officiating to carry her through games. Make sure you hit that subscribe button right now because this story is exploding across the basketball world and revealing uncomfortable truths about media narratives, institutional bias, and who actually deserves to be called elite in women's basketball. The footage from the Unrivaled one-on-one tournament is damning and impossible to spin. Chelsea Gray, a longtime WNBA veteran and championship point guard for the Las Vegas Aces, faced off against Paige Bueckers in what should have been a competitive matchup between a proven professional and a highly touted young talent. Instead, what unfolded was a masterclass in veteran skill, completely dismantling overhyped potential. Gray controlled every aspect of the game. She used her experience, her footwork, her shot creation ability, and her defensive positioning to shut down Bueckers almost completely. Paige could not get clean looks. She could not create separation. She could not impose her will on the game in any meaningful way. The final result was not close, and the manner in which Gray dominated left no room for excuses or alternative explanations. What makes this even more significant is Paige Bueckers' reaction to the loss. Professional athletes lose all the time. It is part of competition. What separates elite competitors from everyone else is how they handle defeat. Do they show grace? Do they acknowledge their opponent's superior performance? Do they use the loss as motivation to improve? Paige Bueckers did none of those things. The body language on display was atrocious. She looked defeated, frustrated, and unwilling to accept what had just happened. After the game ended, she gave Chelsea Gray the most perfunctory, obligatory acknowledgement possible. A quick bro hug that was clearly done only because she knew the cameras were watching, and refusing would make her look even worse. Then came the real telling moment. Paige Bueckers walked off the court, threw up a dismissive wave toward fans or someone in the vicinity, and exited the building as quickly as possible. This was not the reaction of someone who just competed hard and came up short against a worthy opponent. This was the reaction of someone who expected to win, believed the hype surrounding her own abilities, and could not process the reality that she had just been thoroughly outplayed by a veteran who exposed every weakness in her game. The crash-out was complete, and social media immediately picked up on it. Fans who have been skeptical of the Paige Bueckers hype for months or even years seized on this moment as vindication. Comments flooded in, mocking the idea that Bueckers is some unstoppable force in women's basketball. People pointed out that she has been carried by playing on stacked UConn rosters, surrounded by elite talent and coaching from Gino Auriemma. They noted that she has received extremely favorable officiating in college, the kind of preferential whistle that superstars like A'ja Wilson receive in the WNBA, allowing her to play more aggressively without consequence while opponents are penalized for defending her. When those advantages are removed and she has to compete one-on-one against a seasoned professional with no refs to bail her out and no teammates to cover her deficiencies, the results speak for themselves. Chelsea Gray did not just win, she sent a message. The way she carried herself during and after the game was pure veteran confidence. She did not need to trash talk. She did not need to showboat. She simply played her game, dominated her opponent, and let the results do the talking. The little smirk she gave after the win was not malicious. It was the look of someone who knew exactly what everyone else was thinking. All the hype, all the media narratives, all the predictions that Paige Bueckers would be the next face of women's basketball. None of it mattered when she had to actually go out and prove it against a champion. The contrast with how other elite players handle competition could not be more stark. Caitlin Clark, for example, has faced intense scrutiny and criticism throughout her career, yet she consistently responds on the court with performances that silence doubters. When she loses, she takes responsibility, acknowledges her mistakes, and comes back stronger. She does not storm out of buildings or dismiss fans. She engages, she competes, and she earns respect through her play. Angel Reese, another player who has faced relentless criticism, shows up every single night and dominates the boards, even when her team loses. She battles through adversity and lets her work ethic speak for itself. These are the qualities of true competitors. What Paige Bueckers displayed after losing to Chelsea Gray was the opposite. The institutional bias within women's basketball that has propped up Paige Bueckers is impossible to ignore. The UConn Mafia, as some observers call the network of former UConn players and coaches who hold influential positions throughout women's basketball, has enormous power. Sue Bird, the longtime UConn star, is now the managing director of USA Basketball's women's national team. Gino Auriemma, the UConn head coach, has been deeply involved in USA Basketball operations for years. This network has consistently elevated UConn players and protected them from criticism while pushing narratives that benefit the program and its alumni. Paige Bueckers has been the primary beneficiary of this system over the past few years. From the moment she arrived at UConn, the media coverage was relentless. She was anointed as the next great thing before she had proven anything at the professional level. Highlight reels were shared endlessly. Analysts praised her skills while glossing over weaknesses. When she struggled with injuries, the narrative was always about how dominant she would be once healthy, never questioning whether the hype matched reality. When she returned to play, referees gave her every benefit of the doubt, allowing her to operate with a freedom that most players do not receive. All of this created an environment where Paige Bueckers was insulated from the kind of honest evaluation that every other player faces. The one-on-one loss to Chelsea Gray strips away all of that protection. There are no teammates to pass to when the defense collapses. There are no refs to call ticky-tack fouls when an opponent plays physical defense. There is no UConn system designed to maximize her strengths while hiding her weaknesses. It is just player versus player, skill versus skill, will versus will. And in that environment, Paige Bueckers was thoroughly outclassed by a veteran champion who did not need any institutional support to prove her greatness. Social media reactions ranged from mockery to schadenfreude to genuine analysis of what this loss reveals. One commenter noted that Paige looked like she had never faced adversity before and had no idea how to handle it. Another pointed out that her body language was terrible throughout the game, suggesting a lack of mental toughness. Several people brought up the favorable officiating she received in college, arguing that she has been conditioned to expect calls that will never come in professional competition. Others simply laughed at the idea that she was ever considered on the same level as players like Caitlin Clark or A'ja Wilson, whose dominance has been proven repeatedly against the highest levels of competition. The timing of this loss is particularly significant because it comes right before the FIA World Cup qualifying tournament, where Paige Bueckers is expected to play a major role for Team USA. The concern among fans who want to see the best American players on the court is that institutional bias will lead to Bueckers receiving playing time and potentially even starting over more deserving players like Caitlin Clark. Sue Bird's role as managing director gives her enormous influence over those decisions. Gino Auriemma's continued involvement in USA basketball circles means his opinions carry weight. If Paige Bueckers starts at point guard over Caitlin Clark, despite being demonstrably inferior, it will confirm every suspicion about how the UConn Mafia operates and how personal agendas override basketball merit. The one-on-one tournament at Unrivaled was supposed to be fun, a showcase of talent and competition in a relaxed off-season setting. Instead, it became a referendum on who has been overhyped and who has actually earned their reputation. Chelsea Gray is a multiple-time WNBA champion, a Finals MVP, and one of the smartest point guards in women's basketball history. She has proven herself at the highest levels of the sport repeatedly. Paige Bueckers has done none of that. She has college accolades, sure, but those were achieved in a system specifically designed to make her look good. When forced to compete on equal footing against a proven champion, she could not hang, and her reaction to that failure exposed a lack of maturity and competitive character. What happens next will be telling. Does Paige Bueckers use this as a learning experience and motivation to improve? Does she acknowledge that she has work to do before she can be mentioned in the same breath as the true elite players in women's basketball? Or does she retreat further into the protective bubble of UConn and USA basketball, where her weaknesses will be ignored and her strengths exaggerated? The latter seems far more likely given the institutional support she enjoys and the lack of accountability she has faced throughout her career. For fans who have been gaslit for the past 18 months into believing that Paige Bueckers is on par with or superior to players like Caitlin Clark, this one-on-one loss is a moment of clarity. The narrative has always been manufactured. The hype has always exceeded the reality. When you remove the advantages of playing for UConn, benefiting from Gino Auriemma's coaching, getting favorable officiating, and being surrounded by elite talent, what remains is a good player who is not yet elite and may never reach that level. Chelsea Gray exposed that truth in the most public and undeniable way possible. The crash out after the loss will follow Paige Bueckers for a long time. In an era where every moment is captured on camera and shared instantly across social media, her decision to storm out of the building with terrible body language and a dismissive attitude toward fans will be replayed endlessly. It will be used as evidence of her character, her competitive spirit, and her ability to handle adversity. Fair or not, that is the reality of being a highly publicized athlete in the modern media landscape. If you want the glory that comes with hype and attention, you also have to accept the scrutiny that comes with failure. Chelsea Gray did not just win a one-on-one game. She delivered a masterclass in how veterans with proven track records dismantle overhyped young players who have not yet earned their reputations. She showed what real basketball IQ looks like. She demonstrated the importance of experience, footwork, and mental toughness. And she did it all while maintaining her composure and professionalism, making Paige Bueckers' meltdown look even worse by comparison. This was not just a loss, this was an education, and the entire basketball world was watching.